Hey everybody, this is Rydo, and we're back to Myst 5 End of Ages. It's a real shame here that we can't just get to the Myst Island, because in at least one of the other Myst games, you get back to the Myst Island after you've played the rest of the game, and then there's just kind of nothing to do there, and it's really just kind of a walking simulator section. Whereas in this game, since it doesn't really have any puzzles or anything other than tablet interactions, which we didn't even start interacting with the tablets until last episode, uh, being able to take a break potentially and get back to Myst Island would make a lot of sense. It would kind of make a lot of sense if this central hub area was the Myst Island, or an island even slightly off the coast of the Myst Island so you can see it in the distance. But yeah, this central hub area is pretty boring. The main area we started in, we've already solved everything for. So now it's just down to the 3 remaining sections. And I guess the question we could do here, is this game going to actually let me move, would be to check where this teleports us so we can do this in as chronological of a way as possible. See, this one is here. And yeah, since there really is just this one puzzle of getting below this platform as it raises up, you are like not really gonna get stuck in this game. It is possible, certainly, you didn't solve that one puzzle, then you would have never been able to find this portal. But that's pretty much the only possibility, like storyline wise. This interface is a mess, and the drawing schematics are a mess as far as drawing symbols on the tablets. One thing that occurred to me in the last episode, there's a point where you put a tablet down and it would have made a lot of sense for that tablet to teach you that you as a human being, assumedly the main character you're playing as is a human being, this is the 3rd spot, I suspect, although this might actually be the 4th spot. It teaches you that you are heavier, and thus you break through the ice when you stand on the place where the ice was cracked. You would think in other Myst games that that would teach you that there was going to be some kind of weight puzzle, and you would have to balance the scales of the characters, the least fly creatures being lighter than humans. So this is the 2nd one, I guess. Yeah. So this, I'm gonna have to assume, is the one we were supposed to do next. Which it probably doesn't matter what order you do any of the puzzles in, but we'll try to have that experience. So we're going to take the tablet, and then we're going to press the home button, which in this case the home symbol is that, and that's going to teleport us. And each of these bubbles indicate, well, they actually indicate something different. For the one keep bubble where the circular tablet is locked down, that is in multiple locations. But this bubble doesn't seem to actually be in multiple locations. It instead just seems like it's in one location, although visually it looks like it's in multiple locations, but that doesn't make the most sense. If anything, they're just trying to show off that they have visual overlay technology and that they have 3D skybox technology, which for 2005 would have been something to be somewhat proud of. We have a big planet, which at a certain level it would have made some sense if the Myst series went to different planets. Abduction effectively does go to different planets, and in fact you have bubbles that are very much like this in Abduction. I can clearly see there were some ideas in the development of this game that eventually led to Abduction coming out many years later. That being said, one of the main ideas that gets carried over is just that Abduction, with the exception of one red herring puzzle, is very consistent in the gameplay mechanic. It's not like Myst where you would walk up to some device and have to figure out what the device is and how it works. Everything is very similar once you figure out the main gameplay mechanic, and it makes the game much more simple. Abduction is way more about getting to a point and pressing a button than it is about figuring out what button to press. This game, somewhat similar in that case. Now, the weirdness here, though, is we've already seen the idea of fake ages, and they never really made it 100% obvious that the ages weren't happening on Earth, say millions of years ago or millions of years in the future. It gets harder to believe that you're on the same planet when you have a giant ring of a planet here. Plus, there was something about observing the stars in general in the Myst games that led to more of that scientific thinking, or more accurately, pseudo-scientific thinking, not real scientific thinking. It gets very far away from a hard sci-fi story, or arguably Myst might be better described as a hard fantasy story when you're on a completely different planet. This also feels somewhat similar to a region we've already seen. It looks like we're going to ride on another movement device, but you would usually want to see at least one movement device, one vehicle in every level, and we didn't see anything like that in the first level. We might run into a problem here where there's nowhere to go and we will just have to go to the other location. Let's see, switch back to this setup. Wow, the camera spins you around 360 backwards.
Todelmer, built to study the heavens, and glorious heavens you will find here. I'm only sad we were never allowed to finish. I've told you some of the story. Yesha's great-grandmother, Tiarna, came to us desperate for control, convincing our people to betray rules we had held for generations. And we died. Yesha claims such death, as painful as it was, had to be done. A plan of the Maker, and that she will rebuild. She will dispelled. I will tell you, such delusive wisdom comes from vague feelings and daydreams, and the tablet you will have is far too powerful for such wisdom. Todelmer, enjoy the beauty of the heavens while you consider the power that can control them.
So, yeah, clearly there's a bit of a story here between, like, logic and emotion. Art in the sense of being an emotional expression, drawing, painting, things like that. In this case, the art would be the magical ability to create ages, versus the way the art is taught by the Dunny people, in that it is full of rules and regulations. And it does seem like Eshu was an original Dunny in that case. It'd almost be interesting if it turned out he was a ghost, or not what he seemed and not a human. But yeah, as far as I understood it, there was something about pointing antennas to the stars using the crystals so you could communicate between different ages, almost like they were different planets. The constellation puzzle in the first Myst game had no real connection to anything else. It was just a puzzle, and the constellations you see were just references to something that may or may not exist in the Myst Island. Okay, so we've got a switch here. It looks like in a switch here. And it looks like you can drag it into many degrees. I can turn things all the way off, and I can turn things all the way on. So it does seem like we may need to tune in to some settings there, and may have an actual puzzle. It doesn't quite make sense, though, that the Dunny people would create an age to study the stars, unless creating an age with a descriptive book doesn't actually create an age, but actually just helps you link to an age that already exists, which is the other way to potentially interpret it. And I never really got a clear explanation as to whether creating a descriptive book actually created the age or not, and I don't think the game ever cared to really explain it. It was left to the imagination of the player. So it's not a particularly great way to look here. Is there anything that we can interact with on this? Is there any difference between that one and that one? Yes, there's a different picture there. We may need to power up this facility first before we can do anything else, but it does kind of feel like it's the mechanism of some great observation deck. Telescope. Yeah, telescope would be the right word. Weirdly, we haven't seen any symbols to write on the puzzles yet. If we had a symbol that brought about geothermal steam before, I wouldn't be surprised if we find a symbol that makes it shoot lightning or something like that. And I assume these are shooting stars, not just droplets of rain, and I assume we're not doing anything with this firefly, which that would be much more in line with what you might expect in a Myst game, is that something as small and missable as a firefly might play a big role. When we walked up here, it felt like there was an earthquake, but it doesn't quite make sense that there would be an earthquake on this different age, on a different planet. It seems like they just are doing a little shaking as you go up the stairs every time. Well, part of it, I imagine, is I keep right-clicking into the free video mode. Like, there's something about the game that it keeps putting me in this free view mode, even though I'm not right-clicking. So you have a cable or a wire that is broken here. And I doubt it's something as natural as you have to draw the shape in the swamp water. We can't cross any further. And there's some kind of, I'd call it an orrery, a mechanical representation of a solar system, but it might just be some kind of other device. So back down we go. Maybe we'll see something following the other direction. Yeah. I don't get it. I don't know what happened here. At what point did we switch from classic mouse click to classic plus? I don't recall that happening. Maybe the game just clicked itself into that setting. Some of the reviews of this game on Steam do say it's a buggy mess, and yeah, I could certainly see the tablet not working particularly well and calling that a buggy mess. So we missed seemingly nothing. Would be interesting if there was a symbol carved onto the face of a moon. This could be Earth, but it wouldn't really make a lot of sense. It doesn't make a lot of sense that the Dunny people would want to study the heavens as it is, and then they would have an underground cavern city, although it does kind of seem like the Dunny people just happened to be living in the underground cavern city and were digging their way upward to the surface. You would almost expect there to be some kind of nuclear fallout type reason that Dunny was built underground. At a certain level, I guess if it was under the ground, you would allow the civilization of the Dunny people to potentially exist for millions of years more, if they existed like before the dinosaurs. There's slight shades of blue that pop up, but I wouldn't be surprised if that barely means anything. Alright, well, let's leave it at that. The other area gave us a lot more clues than this. Feels like maybe there's supposed to be some way to get to the top of all of this. Okay. So that moves. this moves. But these don't move. And this doesn't seem to move. There's... I mean, little you can really do here. You can line that up. And then... Can we even do the same with this? Not really. Clearly, there's something I'm missing. Is there some other interactable object? Alright. Back up we go. And with this point and click interface, you're not gonna look high up. My guess is that there's probably something I missed. Some doorway, some path. When I'm not using the Classic Plus mode, moving up these stairs doesn't have that shaky hand vibration. And if there was something in the distance that you were supposed to draw, I would assume it would glow and it would look very obvious that it was out of place. I do hear the flies, but I have no idea what you would do with that. Looking at this tablet, we have only 3 symbols this time, plus an action symbol. So it is a walking simulator or a hidden object game. You would hope that the game would give you some kind of hint, some kind of help, but yeah, that's asking way too much for a Myst game. It is just going to let me wander around, accomplishing nothing. These are just dunny symbols. This isn't lit up. This isn't lit up. Need to power this machine. Which means we need to teleport ourselves somewhere else. Probably way at the top there. Which any symbol would be fairly useful. Okay. Guess we could draw the symbol that we saw in the previous area and just see what happens. Let's do that. Hey. Let's try that again. Let's see if that will teleport that to a different location. Weirdly, it seems like the least aren't even gonna show up unless you're further away. So yeah, he didn't understand that symbol. I mean, I could just draw a hexagon like that. And that should be understood to take it back to where it is. Is there a reason, though? So he did understand that I wanted him to take the tablet back to that location. It'll show up when I walk away. If it's not on the wall, and it's, I mean, it basically seems like it has to be that the puzzle is within this room. The only other thing I could think of doing would be to draw the sun and see if the sun symbol means anything to them in this region. I guess I could also draw the final symbol to the keep. I don't think that's going to work either. Right. There's gotta be something I'm missing. Obviously. There's gotta be some, either a symbol hidden in between all these mechanical elements, or a button, a switch. Maybe something is visually really dark. This might be a case where, if we were to try and do something like this and then hover through, that would be a very unlikely solution. We've walked actually around this a lot of times. It very possibly is the case that there's just a ladder that gets to a higher location and I'm not seeing it. Does kind of seem like this would be possibly a ladder. If anything, it seems like if I could get this machine on, though, it would show me symbols, and then with the symbols I could teleport myself to other locations. And I guess you're in a catch-22 here, in the case that other Myst games would have a whole bunch of decorative red herring items, and this game is doing you the favor of not having those, but then that leaves you in a very boring environment. Okay. That is completely off when it's there. That turns it perhaps too bright. If I go this way, it seems to me like these two add into each other. Okay, so no puzzle at all there, really. Just fiddle with the switches. There's no writing, no markings, no numbers. There's no even real scribbling. At the very least, you'd want to see something like etched into the wall saying light equals good, or have a note on the floor, which noticeably we're not finding any extra notes from anybody. This is, again, betraying what was canon of a Myst game as far as how solutions should come about. You should be able to think your way through it and know the answer before you just fiddle with controls. Yes, there have been some puzzles in the past where you end up fiddling with controls, but usually there's no reason that you need to fiddle with that much. Okay, so is this button work now? Yes, we can hear it's moving things around. So we're using this, I assume, to reach like specific numbers. Although this does spin things in such a way that I'm not sure if there's 100% solution here, because it does seem like you could just spin things forever and it barely changes the outcome. And it doesn't feel like the game's going to give us any hint visually, regardless of what we do. So that looks like that might be the solution. It is the same symbol twice also, but it doesn't really seem like it's doing much. So far. Okay. I guess we're probably trying to mete out something that would be either the combined dunny numbers all the way to the top or all the way to the bottom. Or we're supposed to use these combinations, which open bracket with a line in the middle, close bracket with a line in the middle. We can see if we can pull that out. This time you do see some stars, and these actually do something. Okay. And one interacts with the other. So, but that doesn't feel like a full system, however. Try this again. is there? Yeah, each one of these settings is selectable. So if I take this open bracket symbol here with a line in the middle, and then if I find a closed bracket with the line in the middle, that lines up. Well, that does sound like something more happened there. The meter here is now way at the bottom. These buttons don't move, however. And see, this is showing a star field to start with. Kind of don't want to click a button and mess with it. Not when things seem to actually be working. Okay. We'll try that same combination again. See if that points us to anything. No. But I also have no idea what we are supposed to be looking for. And I guess the real question that would come about from this is, do we want to find potentially a symbol, leave this whole section, and then have to come back and solve through all these puzzles later? Let's just double check and make sure there isn't anything more to all of this. It kind of feels like there's 4 telescopes, or the 4 telescopes all synergize with each other. This was showing space before. And now it isn't. I guess the question is, how can we get to the top? Because that's what doesn't really make sense. As far as I know, this symbol here could just be the one symbol you need to put in on any of these inputs. It could be something that simple, but yeah, your visibility on this is not great. So again, yes, the game did recommend to not go to 1080p resolution, but I am at 1080p, so I'm going to have to just pull out my camera magnifier and see if I can get a better view of what those two top signals are. There's obviously a circle there, which makes that seem like that is the goal. Come on. My hands are too shaky. Alright, I'm thinking it's a V at the bottom, and then possibly a close or an empty square. There's a lot of glare on it too. Guess maybe if I turned off the other lights in my room, I might be able to see it better. Although, maybe not. Actually, I can't see it at all, can I? Because the pointer is in the way. Right. So we need to change something. You would think you would just have a screen right there. That would make the most sense. Okay. So it could be this symbol. And then could be that symbol. Is there a symbol? Could be that symbol. You're just not going to accidentally click on the right thing. Oh man. Every time you click this, that may be glitching it too. Okay, so that symbol is now at the very top. So I can bring up my camera again and try and read that top part. But there's no real guarantee that that's even what we're looking for. It could be that it's telling us that if it's up there, it's at a goose egg, and we should be in the middle, which would be easier to read. So yeah, it looks like it's a V and an empty block, which potentially this may just be teaching you the Dunny numbering system overall, or a new variant on the Dunny numbering system. Okay, so V, absolutely empty block. Which, if these are in order, that would make a lot of sense. Oh, you hear a clank sound. I don't know if that's an indication of something or what. Wouldn't be surprised if these ropes and pulleys are moving, as we're looking through this, and it's changed. Either this whole thing spun around or something, which So let's leave that one where it is. And let's try and make what looks like it's kind of a K symbol with a closing bracket. Let's see. It may be that, but it may also be that. I think that's it. And then we're looking for a closing bracket. There's a whole system here to interpret these numbers if you've memorized it from previous Myst games, but I've never bothered to commit it to memory. And in Riven, I think it somewhat changes, randomizes. Okay. So that one points to that. But I suspect we're supposed to perhaps aim and target this, which this looks like it's a closing bracket with a bump. So let's try and put that in one of these. I imagine it may not matter which one. Although it might be very much it matters which one, and that's what this whole adjustment orb is all about. There's a closing bracket, and then what? Sure would be nice if you could just see it. And on that side you don't see the numbers, but on this side you do see numbers, which that probably is supposed to be some kind of hint. Just moving things without even hitting the button has moved the opening bracket, I guess is what we needed. Let's see, come on. There we go. Well, that blinked green. Maybe that means something. Okay. Opening bracket with a wavy line and a bump. Let's try that here. Is that the symbol? No, I don't think it is. I think that's it. What was the other symbol? Can only remember one thing at once. It looks like it's just a closing bracket. It seems like a lot of these are just closing brackets, which probably means they end on certain numbers. What would make some sense here is if the restrictions only let you put in one of the combinations and none of the other numbers. That would make this a much easier puzzle, which clearly they have no desire to make it an easier puzzle. But weirdly, in this case, it does kind of seem like I cannot put in the symbol I think I'm looking for. This is way at the bottom. This one moved the circle, and it didn't move the circle far enough. So let's see if we can brute force something. See if that changes anything. K with a bump and close brackets. It's not what we're seeing here. K with a bump. We're looking for close brackets alone. Which we may not be able to do on this input. There it is. Just don't know what I'm supposed to be doing here. I do know that this circle here was in a different location, so let's just do the K with a bump symbol everywhere until we see something different. I assume that's the right picture. These symbols are a little small, again 8 feet away from a monitor, and I wouldn't put it past myself to misread what I'm seeing. Well, that came back on, at least. Which this probably means that this is way off. And this being here probably means it's way off. Okay. Okay with the bump. Close brackets doesn't work there. Let's try it. Okay with the bump. Close brackets doesn't work there. Maybe I just need it on each of these. Do it once, and maybe that is okay. We've got it. It looks like it's slowly actually moving up higher even, although that may just be a visual glitch. No, I swear this is going higher and higher. Which, what does that mean? Okay. What I think I need to figure out here is one of these symbols, I suspect, regardless of this one in the spin, would always be the same. This would always be a slash in the line. There's, I don't think, really a way that this wouldn't just be a slash in the line. So that's your first hint. So forward slash coming this way tells me I need to find a solution that has a forward slash in it. And there is no solution with a forward slash in it that I can see. Let's try this again. This would always be forward slash. That would always be forward slash. Yeah. So we are aiming for a combination. Let's just do something simple. We can clearly see this one. A bump and a 1 and a dash. Or a slash. So let's see if we can input that in this region. Doesn't seem like it. See if we can find a bump symbol in this region. There's a bump. Let's see if we can find a dash. If we can't find a dash, then we know it's in the lower right section or the upper right section. There we go. Bump, dash. Okay. K dash, closing bracket, dash. Well, that just spun the whole thing around and we saw that. Is this game screwing me over? I wonder if it is. I wonder if it rotates the symbols every few minutes, so you can't possibly know the solution. Yeah, and I still really don't understand the circle or the line in the middle. But I guess this is a bump with a vertical line and then a square in the lower right hand corner. Let's see if we can maybe put that symbol in somewhere. There's a bump with a vertical line. That was easy. And then square in the lower right section. Almost certainly, since we've spent an hour in this, I think I just want to look up the solution. Like, I really am shortchanging myself, certainly, but at a certain level, I can't really do too much else. I imagine the solution isn't to go reset the power and turn it off and turn it back on, although that might actually be it. Bump with a line vertical and then square in the lower right hand corner. Try that again on this one. Is it possibly a case that the square being depicted here is a different square? I don't think they'd be that complicated. So it does seem like this is a timer. Like maybe the cosmoses are spinning around or something. So maybe the timer here is an indicator of when you could actually see something in space. Of course, maybe it's also broken. So maybe this is the case that the timer starts at the top and then ends up at the bottom. Maybe that could mean something. And then maybe this spinning resetting is a way of highlighting that. I might also just be doing a really bad job of lining things up in a central, right in the middle of the screen. Again, even at a lower resolution though, I would say that these dials and knobs are kind of in the wrong place if you're supposed to be paying attention to the numbers at the bottom. There, that seems as central as I could possibly do it. Okay. This timer aspect, you'd almost think that maybe you're supposed to not even deal with this mechanic and you're just supposed to like put something in the gears to cheat it. One thing we could learn is just by watching this, we can see if it's going to rotate through no interaction of me or if it only rotates after I do something. If it rotates by itself, then we know it's a timer. We may also have it where it goes down and then it goes all the way back up and then it rotates. So even if the little marker pointed to something, or if the marker pointer started going back up, that would tell us something. But yep, I'm gonna type in Myst 5 walkthrough because this is too cryptic. There's too many possibilities here. If there was 2 or 3, or 4 in this case, solutions being shown to me, then I would know what to type in. If there was something that would tell me what a circle means versus what a line through it means. We see 3 dashes, so maybe the goal here is to have all 3 of them in that configuration, and then the 4th one would reveal something. But yeah, and maybe if you have 3 that are in the other configuration, it rotates, and that's a bad thing. But yeah, the pointer doesn't seem like it's moving, nor does it seem like it's spinning at any speed. And yeah, you're not going to get a hint or anybody showing up. Let's see. Yeah, I'm scrolling down the walkthrough. So yeah, I'm still scrolling. The timer is moving up now that I've been looking down on my phone. But that was quite a lot of time. Let's see. Wow. So, looking at the walkthrough, none of this seems to be relevant. It's a red room full of red herrings. What we're doing is we're supposed to go up here and see that the path is blocked by this. So all I need to do is actually fiddle with the machine without actually understanding anything about the machine to get this pulley system to clear the path. Which I figure if I had done that even once, I would have probably already cleared the path permanently. That is infuriating, to say the least. So each of these mechanisms are moving these things around. And one would think maybe the idea is to just solve it all this way the first time, and then we're going to come back and do something later. But you can see the world is moving, although it's not really bothering to show you that. I might be choosing the wrong section. It's either all the way to the top and left. Let me actually check so we don't walk back and get in the way. Vertical slider all the way to the top, all the way to the left. Yep. So all of these are all the way to the top and to the right. And I suspect I just need to move the broken one with the broken screen. But I didn't even have to do that much. So that was the entirety of the puzzle. Wow. Took an hour because the game has me thinking this is an actual Myst game instead of what it feels like. I would personally like to think that actually Cyan Worlds came in at the last second and there was some third-party developers making the game up until this point, and they finished it and put their name on it, but I wouldn't put it really past the point of belief that Cyan Worlds in 2005 was just so not up with modern video game design that this is the best they could do. They were so enthralled with the idea of making Myst Uru and making their own engine and programming things. And inherently that is part of the problem with Myst as a series, is that it would just be way, way better if it had been made in decades later. The technology would be so much better and so much easier. And that is the good news, is that the most recent game from Cyan, as they are now trying to make games, although in fairness a lot of the games still feel very much like they are just trying to do the same thing over and over again without breaking out of that idea, and they're not really experimenting enough now. They experimented too much with Uru in this game, and now they're barely experimenting with abduction, and I think the name of their newest game is Firmament. Yeah, that's the name of it, Firmament. And in all fairness, Cyan now is run by a whole new generation of people. The old people that own the company still exist, but it is not really their jobs to program games anymore, and they have a different way of thinking about how they make games, probably for the better. But yeah, they in Firmament are using the Unreal Engine, so all of a sudden you don't have to program your own engine, and you can go to the Epic Assets store and purchase pre-made visual textures and sound files and things like that, 3D models of characters. So yeah, there is a real potential that Cyan could, in the next decade, make 1 or 2, maybe even 3 or 4 more games, but it'll be hard for them to be as relevant as the first Myst game was, because there's just so much more competition. They don't feel like they've been particularly influenced by newer puzzle games such as The Witness or the Talos Principle, whereas compare the Talos Principle to this, I would love the Talos Principle instead, because there's just 3D platforming and laser puzzles and something to do, instead of spending an hour fiddling with a machine you're not even actually supposed to understand. That's really breaking kind of a promise to the player that these puzzles will eventually make sense, and that you'll feel smarter once you solve a puzzle, instead of just brute forcing your way through it. Which there is that one puzzle in Abduction where it feels like there's some cryptic solution to it, and it's totally a red herring. There's like dozens of buttons on it, and none of the buttons do anything except for unlock an Easter egg if you spend way too much time on it. Anyways, we've gone over an hour, so that's going to be it for this recording. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and watch every second of my videos. If you want to support me further, there's some links down below in the description box. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening.